I promised I would show you how I'm using digital stuff in combination with my planners, and today I will be doing just that. Hi everybody, today I'm going to be doing what I call the digital situation. I still use my Erin Condren horizontal and my bullet journal together. That's my main planner system. But I have found that I am no longer using the monthly calendar in my Erin Condren the way I used to. Like, I'm barely even looking at it. Like, if you look at August and you see all the shit on here, and then you look at the current month that I'm filming this November and you see how bare it is, that's not because I have a bare month. That's because I'm not using it, because I have switched over to using Google Calendar. And the reason for that, there were two reasons. One, I did a video back in, I think, August. I'll link it in the cards up above if you want to tap that. Tap that. Is that I was overwhelmed with everything I was trying to deal with the podcast, with the YouTube channel, with the Patreon, with all the things. And I was struggling to keep it all together. And so I did a big brainstorming video. My husband and I kind of worked out that some of these things belong in my paper planners, but some of these would be more suited to a digital version. On top of that, he had been on me, that too. He had been on me for quite some time to create a digital calendar, because that's what he uses, so that he can keep track of everything that's going on in the house. And so I have been kind of working with that since August, and it's not perfect. I could wait till it's perfect, but I'm not. I'm going to show you where I'm at right now to show you how right now I am utilizing digital stuff and this both to manage my life and to manage all of the work that I do online. It's not totally complete. Some of these are not done, and I created kind of a mock version of a couple of these things because I'm not going to expose to you all the videos I'm making in the next couple of months, because where would the fun be in that? Anyway, so I'm going to I started this here with this because I felt like it, but I'm actually going to bounce over to my computer now, and we're going to kind of go through the different things I'm using, where I'm at with them, why I'm using them, and where I think I need to still do some work to make it exactly what I want. So let's get going. So we're going to start with my Google Calendar. This is kind of the heart of the whole operation of this digital situation. There are three things that I'm using currently. One is a Google Calendar, one is Trello, and one is Evernote, although I feel like Evernote is probably not going to last much longer, and we'll talk more about that as we get through. So I have two Google Calendars. One is associated with my personal email address, and one is associated with my work email address, and I did this not on purpose. I didn't realize I couldn't share certain things outside of the professional Gmail system I'm using right now. But I'm just going with it rather than redoing the whole thing, and it's been working out okay. I can actually access some of my calendars via this one as well, but most of the time I keep it separate just because it's easier for my brain to work that way. So this first one that we're looking at here is my personal family calendar. Now, the only calendar it is family. This one is shared with my husband and both of my children, and this has all of the things. Now, I know that I could color code them for family and everything else, but I found it easier from the beginning to just put the name of whoever it is at the front of the situation. So you can see here, I have my custody marked in on like long stretches of time when my son is out of town for mugs, all of Katie's various band things. If you go back through here, you can see that there is like Katie all over the fucking map because of all of the marching band shit that goes on. But that, after this month, is going to be mostly done as marching band season will be over. Three different kinds of items on this family calendar. The first one is stretches of time. Now, as you can see here, I use that for custody. I use that for school breaks, for travel, something that takes place over multiple days. Now, to create one of these, in case you don't know, this is not a total Google Calendars situation, but I will just say that it took me a while to figure some of this shit out. So if I wanted to create some kind of a traveling situation here, like for example, I will be gone in January for a event at the New York Planner Addicts. The tickets will be linked down below, #plug. And I'm going to be gone from Friday through Sunday. So I'm just dragging to create this thing. And then in it, I'm going to put my name in all caps and then New York planner trip. And I have the flights and everything. They're actually on my work calendar, but I'm going to move them over here as well. And then save. And now we have this trip with my name on it. The same works for my son with trips he goes on, with custody, with winter break, with all of those things. So that's the first kind of item I have on this calendar. The second item I have on this calendar is events where either I don't know what time yet or I just consider an all day. So as an example, here on January 19th, our town is doing a women's march, and we are going to have a table for our church at the women's march. And I don't know what the hours are yet. I don't know who is going to be volunteering. I know I'm going to be there. I know it's going to be that day. So I have it on the calendar, but I don't have a time associated with it yet because I don't know what time. I'm just getting on there to know as I'm looking forward in my planning that on this day, this thing is happening. Now, when I get a time for an event that I've already blocked out on the calendar here, as an example, my kid has a band review this weekend. It's like a parade and a competition that's here in town. We now know what time the call time is going to be for the event. And so I am going to come in here and just give it a time. And this is call time is 10 a.m. and it's going to go until like 3 something. So we'll just put 3. And now that is fixed, and we have it as a timed event rather than a all-day situation. To show you just how I put one of these all-day events on, I found out yesterday that they have changed the date that the tour payment is due for Katie's marching band tour next month. I'm just going to go to that day and I'm going to create an event, and I'm going to just put in Katie and tour payment due, and then I'm going to save it. Now I know that that's marked on there. Oh, hi, Mock. And so when I go in, it'll be good to go. Now, as for the third kind of stuff that we have on this calendar, there are timed appointments. So, for example, I have a doctor phone call on Friday, and I've already got it in here with the time marked in, and I have notifications set up to remind me. Same with like my kids going to OWL, or that I have quartet rehearsal, or that Jesse's going to stay out late with friends or something. All of those things are on here as well so that I can take a look. Now, how do I use this for looking at my family life? Well, I keep an eye on the month at a glance almost all the time. I keep this open. But when I'm actually creating my planner spread for the week, I actually go into the schedule and I make sure that it starts. So it would be on, like, if I was going to be planning for this next week as I'm filming this, it's actually the day you're watching this. I will just click it until that day is the top, and then I'll just go through and make a list of all of the things that are going on in that week, because I make a list on a piece of note paper that has weather and all the stuff going on for that week, and then I can transfer it all to my planner. And so that's what I do, because it's just easier for me to write it all out in one spot. My husband and my kids all have access to this. I feel like my husband kind of uses it, and both my kids are ignoring it right now, which is frustrating. But for now, I think I've got a decent situation, better than color coding. I just like it like being read. It's a lot easier to just read all the things. That's kind of what I want. This is my other Google Calendar, and this one has a lot more shit on it. This one is my work Google Calendar, and I have all sorts of things going on here. So as you can see here on the side, I have editorial calendar, I have filming schedule, which I don't actually use very often. I've been using it off and on, but I actually have just been ignoring putting it into my calendar and just using it in my, like, using my bullet journal to track that. So that's been kind of back and forth. This is back in September because this stuff's all live already. So I'm not putting on, the current one. Freelance projects, Patreon, and podcast interviews. So those are all the things that I track on here. And I actually change the colors. I could have just created a second calendar, but I actually changed the colors. So the color for editorial is orange, but I actually use red for YouTube videos and the peach for live podcast episodes. I don't know, but they're both in editorial calendar. So I feel like I should just change those and create my own calendar for each of them. But for right now, when I add a video, for example, let's say I was going to add a video on September. I don't think I can because it's already happened, but let's just say I could. And I'll say, like, we'll do another plan with me. So I'll just put plan with me, and then I'll go in, I'll add editorial calendar, but then I'm going to go into more options and I'm going to change it to red because that's what I use for my YouTube videos. And see, there it is. It shows up on the calendar. Now for my YouTube videos, for my podcast things, all of that, I don't put a time on them. I just use them as an all-day event. However, when it comes to interviews and times I want to be working on things, then I will assign a time to them. And then for something like Plan As You Go month, I do the same thing I do with my custody. I make it just stretch out for the whole month. This is how I am organizing. And it's the same thing. I will take a look at my schedule in the same way that I take a look at it in my family calendar to make a list of all of the things that I'm using. The reason I have found this helpful is because A, it is super easy to move things around. Like, let's say, for example, I wanted to put this brush pen video here. God damn it. I wanted to put this brush pen video here on a different day and this brush pen video here. It's easy to just move them around. It's kind of like when you use Post-it notes, except this wastes a lot less paper. So that's what I'm actually using for my content calendar right now, because I can just shuffle things as I need them to be, and then I will just make my list for my planner as per usual. So yeah, that's how I use Google Calendar, and it's been working really well. I've been able to plan out further and further and still move things around, and it's been really helpful. The problem is that now I'm at a point where I'm actually getting a lot of things pre-filmed, but I haven't edited a lot of them yet. So I have a lot of footage, and I was starting to get lost. What I used to do was have a folder that held all of my just footage, and it was just like, dot image or whatever. Like, it would just be the random number assigned to it by the camera. And I was having trouble keeping track, and I accidentally deleted some footage, and it was a fucking stain, and I did not like it. So that's where Trello comes in. So I created these 2 Trello boards. These are actually copies of my boards I actually use, but I just swapped out some names so you won't know what's going on. I did not invent these Trello boards, and I have other ones that I'm experimenting with, but these are the only 2 that I'm actually using right now, the YouTube and the podcast ones. I actually got the framework for these and the help on how to use them from a course. It costs like $29 or something. It's from a company called Think Creative Collective, and it's like Master Trello for Business or something like that. I'll link it down below. And I'm not an affiliate or anything. It helped. So they let you copy their boards and then adapt them as you need to. And so I did that with the podcast and with YouTube, and it's been helping, especially with YouTube, to keep track of all of the footage and the images and the assets that I've created and not like lose track or accidentally delete something or whatever the case may be. So I'm going to show you how they both work. So we'll go with the podcast one first. And this one I'm not using quite as much right now because I'm not ahead very much. I'm a little bit ahead on my podcast, but not super ahead. So I haven't quite gotten to a point where I've got a lot of backstock. And I will also note that part of the reason that I wanted to use these is because I know that eventually I'm going to need to hire someone to help me with editing, because I do 4 videos a week and a podcast a week, and it's a lot of editing work, and I can do more creative work if somebody else handles that for me, if I can manage to let it go. And so having something like this in place will make it easier to bring somebody in, or as far as I know. So here's the podcast workflow, and it says video here because I made this for this video. So we have brain dump. Now, I'm not going to be able to explain the ins and outs of Trello. I'm still new at it, but I will tell you the reason I like this is for the same reason I use the Google Calendar, because you can move shit very easily, and that helps. So in this brain dump, it gives me ideas for future solo episodes. So, I just create some ideas here, and then guest ideas are ideas of people that I would like to have on the podcast. Now, let's just say that I reach out to Nicolas Cage and he says he'll be on the podcast. This is not my actual guest list brain dump, just saying. Then what I can do once he says he's willing to is I can go over here and convert to card. And now he's his own card. And I could say confirmed. I've confirmed Nicolas Cage. And then let's just say that Yo Mama and I figure out when she's going to be on the podcast. So I get her scheduled and I put her in the scheduled card. Ooh, thank you for loving my nail polish, Vivian. Now let's say that we get to the day that I'm interviewing Santa and we get it recorded. So I record it and it's in the recording kind of bucket, right? And then we can move my solo episode to editing. Although I will say this editing one is kind of not really used by me because I kind of just record and then often on that day I'll just edit it if it's a solo episode. If it's a guest episode, I usually edit it a little bit later. Then once that's done being edited, I go into my show notes. And what I have in here is actually a Google document that has all of my basic frameworks for show notes and for YouTube descriptions. Like I've got one for giveaways, I've got one for plan as you go, I've got one for planners, so that I don't have to rewrite it every single time and I don't have to make all the tweaks to the different kinds of videos. I just have to make it specific to that video. So it makes it easier for me. I can show you that as well if you want to see. I mean, you can't tell me because we're right here, but so we go into my Google Doc for my descriptions, and here we go. We got plant, and it just has down the side here because I have the outline eventually. Where is it at? There it is. It takes a second here. My computer's like too many things going on. All of these different things. Let's say that a podcast show notes, I click on that, takes me to the podcast show notes and where I've got the basic framework to build the show notes for that episode. But as you can see here, I've just got different types of videos and I'll add more as I have other types of videos. So this just means I used to keep it all in these sticky notes, but this is just easier organized and you can link it directly in Trello to just jump right to it. We get to upload it and scheduled. And then once it's live, it goes to posted. And then there's a promoted list for when I promote it, and I haven't been using that. There have been times I've promoted the podcast, but I've said this before in other videos I've made. That's not something I feel comfortable with. I'm not good at that, so I haven't quite figured it out. I think what I'll probably wind up doing here is putting in a checklist, like going in here and say promo checklist, and then go into the card, and then create a checklist here, and then just have a bunch of things like get over yourself. And I can like add a promo checklist, but I haven't done that yet. So for now, we're just sort of leaving it. That's where I'm at right now, just to keep track of where I'm at. And this hasn't been getting a lot of use yet. I haven't quite got this one super dialed in. So for now, it's just a work in progress. I have, however, gotten a lot better with my YouTube workflow one. And part of this is because I have so much stuff that I've recorded that it's been helpful to have something. So it's the same thing. I have this ideas for video, and then in here I have multiple checklists of different types of videos. Pens to review, planners to review, etc., etc. Just different things that I can be doing. And it's the same deal. Turn one of these into a card once I decide I'm going to move forward with it. So, for example, the video I'm making now, digital situation. And so I don't need to do the product in hand. That's only if I'm doing a review. So if I wanted to say review the Erin Condren Deluxe Monthly, I would create a card here. Can't fucking type today. Add the card and then move this to product in hand once I've ordered it and it's here. The digital situation, I'm in the middle of filming it. So when I'm done, I'll put it into filmed. Now, assets created means I've taken pictures for the thumbnail, and now I'm starting to do a thing where I'm hand lettering each title. So creating that image, those images, things like that. Once those are all done, which is not the case, but since this is not my actual YouTube thing, I'll just pretend it is. Then I move this here. Then we move over to edited, and where I start moving things down the list as I do things. Same deal for descriptions. It's the same Google document, just like, linked here. I could do thumbnail and description separately, but I usually just do them at the same time. And then scheduled, once it's actually scheduled on my YouTube, like I've actually uploaded it and done the back end work and scheduled it, then it'll be here. And then once it goes live, it's on this list. And then again, promotion. This is a promotion checklist, and this is not one. This came with the board, and I haven't quite figured that one out yet either. But so this is just helping me keep track of where I am with all of these videos so I don't do rework that isn't necessary or accidentally lose shit. Those are the 2 Google Calendars and 2 Trello boards I'm mostly using right now. Now, the 5th thing that I'm using digitally is Evernote, and honestly, a lot of this shit has moved over to Trello. And anything that there's only one thing I have not, I've been using it to catch notes when I'm out and about. Like when I was planning my sermon and I was at church and I realized there was a hymn I wanted to use, I could drop it into Evernote. So I'm not going to get rid of it altogether. But the biggest reason I've been using it is to save screenshots of your guys' comments when you ask me to make certain videos. And I'm not great at it, but I'm trying to, because I can just drag them in here. But as far as I know, I can do that in Trello too. Let's test this. Let's test this theory. Let's see if I can drag this puppy over here. Ooh, and now I can change the name of it. So I'm probably going to be getting rid of that section of Trello and just making it as part of my I'm probably going to just get rid of that on Evernote and start making it part of my Trello, but I will just keep using it. I've got different notebooks that I've been kind of messing with, Home, Patreon, all these different things. And honestly, I haven't been using it that much. So I'm probably going to just use it as a note taker and then move the things to their actual places when I get home, because I'm liking the feel of Trello, especially now that I took that course and I have an idea of how to use it. It's becoming a little bit more intuitive for me when it comes to actually using it, I guess. But that is basically the digital setup I'm using currently. I do have a lot of work I need to do, especially in the podcast one, and I want to keep dialing in YouTube. Plus, there's other boards that I'm looking at working on. Business blueprint, my week, some other things like in terms of like the greater ideas, Patreon ideas. Those are things I'm still working on. But for now, the Google Calendar and the Trello boards are really helping me with my paper planning and my planning in general. So I hope that that was helpful for you to understand. So I hope that that was informative and gave you some ideas if you've been struggling with it yourself. I am not an expert at this, like I've said multiple times, and I'm not completely done figuring it out yet either. I'm still tweaking it and changing it and figuring out what works for me and whatever the case. But I knew if I kept putting this video off till it was perfect, it would never get made. And so fuck it. I'm just going to show you where I'm at, let you know kind of where my brain is right now. And I'll tell you right now, it's helping. Like I still absolutely rely on using these two physical paper planners to do my shit, to get my weeks done, to have creativity, to keep my mind on track. But it's a little bit less stressful to kind of keep all of the moving parts in line by having this digital companion. So I just wanted to show you that. Do you use a combination of digital and paper planning? Do you do like digital bullet journaling on an iPad, or do you use a Google Calendar in with your planner, or are you somebody who actually doesn't use paper planners? I know that there are some of you in my audience like that. Tell me all about what kind of a system you have in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time.